Back, you guys. I appreciate it. Peter, thanks for joining us today. Now that you have a mouthful of food, why don't you tell us a little bit about your company? And yeah, tell us a little bit about your company, what you do, and your history with construction once you get done chewing on that sandwich.
Yep, Full Belly Deli is one of my stops.
Yeah.
We haven't veered away in the 3 weeks. No. Everybody's been happy, and it was like, there's no reason to try something else. Yeah, they do fine. I think they print money there.
Yeah. So, my company is Pac West Construction. We're kind of a medium-sized general contractor. I have 14 employees. And we do new homes, remodel work, we do spec and contract work. So, a little bit of a bunch of different things. And been here for almost 20 years. So, you know, I think the problems that I have is very similar to the ones that everyone else experiences. You've got employees who are constantly shopping for a better deal somehow, somewhere. Employees who are coming to work with, an attitude that I'm there to serve them. And obviously they don't look to see who signs the paycheck. So that's a little bit of a challenge, but also have some great people. I have 2 guys who've been with me over 10 years, 1 guy who's been with me almost the whole time I've been here, so almost 20.
Awesome, very, very cool.
So, I mean, for retention for those 3 guys is quite good, but for the other 11,
yeah. What's the average? What's the average in that? As far as what's the range of years with you within that next rung of people?
There seems to be a significant group that turns over every so often. At least from the way that I've been doing it. So
it's the same thing as us. I mean, we had literally 100% attrition in our 1-year guys in 2017, and that was becoming not only that was you could see the trend coming from like 2015, getting there. And we had to really do some self-reflection on that. So
yeah, if people made it the 2-year mark with us, they kind of stuck around a lot longer. But if we didn't get them that first year, it was 100% attrition rate on those people that were not there that long.
Yeah. So no, the rest of the guys are sort of in the 2 to 4 year range. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Let's see. Yeah, that's about right. So it's 1 guy 5 years.
And so of your crew, do you guys self-perform some work? Do you have some carpenters? Do you have project managers?
We self-perform a lot of work.
So you do. So you have mainly carpenters then?
Well, no. I've trained a couple of guys to do tile work.
Okay, awesome.
And of course, we do concrete work. We do siding, framing, windows, doors, interior finish, cabinets, hardwood floors. Those things all kind of fit into the skill set of a typical qualified carpenter.
Yeah.
Takes a while to get there, though.
Of course.
And, half of them walk through the door, oh, I could do all that. And then, if I want to close my eyes, it works pretty good. But under any other circumstance, it's challenging,
awesome.
To kind of weed through that and figure out, but another kind of key quality to any employee is the desire to learn. Almost everyone has the ability to learn, but it's the desire to learn that really makes a difference. And and that extends to everything from new skills to improving old skills to learning English.
Yeah.
And I have a couple guys who have taken those free classes, and they're pretty good, and they're it works. I can converse with them even down to a detail level. But then there's other ones who, all they want to do is talk to the guys that they hang out with all the time.
Yeah.
And and I try to explain to them that's $2 to $3 an hour right there. You don't have to know how to read plans. That's more money.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's a minefield for every company is to understand, from my perspective anyway, is to understand how is the company perceived relative to the other options they have out there. Mm-hmm. I hired a guy to be a supervisor, who had been working for Laverty, and Rich has got a diamond polished business, and this guy was getting paid. He's got a general contractor's license, 30 years of experience, no BS kind of guy who shows up to work 10 minutes early every single day. He's always prepared. He always knows what he's going to do, and very talented, capable guy. $32 an hour, and that's what Laverty was paying him.
Yeah.
When I hired him, I paid him a lot more.
Yeah.
And so you get into this whole, and I hear about some of the other bigger companies, especially, who are actually paying, less than I'm paying and getting more. So, one of my questions is, what are the things that really work in terms of, keeping people interested in working for me?
Yeah.
Or working for other companies that are the same size as mine, or even smaller businesses. Sometimes with the really small companies, the same 3 or 4 guys will work for one guy for 30 years, and that's they're part of the family. But when you get into this sort of medium size, it gets a little bit more complicated.
Well, and that's what we talked about in the first series, was talking about culture. Was the culture is what keeps people around, and then employee engagement and understanding succession planning, understanding benefits, understanding what's next in their career, and so that employee engagement is key. Introduce yourself and your.
Sure, I'm Chelsea Walshide. I work for the Sierra Business Council.
Oh, cool.
So we do free business consulting for small businesses in the area.
Awesome.
So the reason I'm here is we hear what our small businesses have issues with, and hiring people is one of them. Finding employees, keeping employees, retaining, finding the proper employees. So I'm just hoping to gather some information from you guys that we can pass along to our businesses. And if it's okay, but also I'm in the trades in a sense because I'm married into the trades. My husband runs a business in town. My grandfather, my uncles all have small businesses in Truckee. So this is all very interesting to me personally speaking. And if I may just tell you guys also in September that when you talk about differences in the generations within your workforce, how the young folks, we're bringing in a speaker in September to discuss the 3 different generations that are working together in the workforce currently. We have like 5 more years with the boomers, and then there's Gen Xers, and the millennials are not those young kids anymore. They're actually in their 30s. So
Actually, a millennial right now is 38 years old.
Exactly.
So we keep thinking they're these young people, but we're all getting older as well, and we keep forgetting, oh wait, that 38-year-old very well has discretionary income and has a choice, and oh my gosh, it's crazy how quickly that crept up on everybody.
Exactly. So we'll send the information out to your membership. It's something we're bringing a guest speaker in to discuss that, which might be helpful for people who have 3 generations of people working in their company. I took the class already, and it was really fascinating to realize it's all about culture and why people react and act a certain way, and it has to do with what happened, in their surroundings when they were growing up. So when you start to kind of think of it that way, you almost handle your coworkers or your employees a little differently, knowing a little more information. So that's something that we'll put out there for you guys as well.
That would be great.
Yeah, it's so we started off the first series with talking about culture and how culture is the key to starting any kind of career or any kind of company. Without culture, you can't have either one. But we also discussed that every company has a culture, whether or not you know it or not. Your company has a culture, and if you don't know it, that's your culture. But if you do know what it is, then you can work to improve it and actually make it better. And that goes into retention, that goes into employee engagement. And then we talked into careers and how having a career and what makes a career. So offering benefits, offering retirement plans, offering succession planning, continued education and training. We went through the definition of a career in the last meeting. And so what we're going to talk about today is how culture and how careers creates a company. And you actually don't have a company without culture and without careers. You can have a business that operates, but to have a true company, it starts with having culture, it starts with having careers, and that's what we're going to go into today.
Yeah. So just like going back on that main key part of culture is culture guides discretionary behavior, and it picks up where the employee handbook leaves off. Not everybody's going to have an employee handbook, but it's that whole like, hey, I've hired you. Hey, here's our people. This is what we do. This is how we do this. That kind of a handbook. Once that kind of fades off, week 3, week 4, week 5, culture is where everything else picks up. It's that ability to be a ghost and walk through your office, go out into the field, be in the truck, and hear exactly what the culture is of your company. And when you really do have it dialed in, you have people who that culture is going beyond the walls of just your office or just the meetings. It's really traveling with them. And then there's also people you have to worry about that are sometimes just cancerous, period, and they want to erode at culture because they don't fit it. So I'm going to erode at it. I'm not going to mold to it, or I'm not going to learn why they have the culture. I'm going to be kind of cancerous to it. And that was something we didn't really talk about, is that unfortunately there are people, you could have the best carpenter. You could have a guy who's like, oh my gosh, he's my answered prayer for tile. And it's like, he's not good for the company. Unfortunately, it's a better move to get rid of them than it is to actually think, well, how much work am I losing out on? Because at the end of the day, there may be somebody who's like, listen, I'm really interested in actually picking up on that. I know I'm nowhere close, but I'd like to get there. And they have the culture. That's unbelievable. And then careers. And this is where Merriam-Webster has actually changed. This part that's underlined has changed in the last 10 years. It used to be just an occupation undertaken for a significant period of a person's life, but now it's with opportunities for progress. That's the biggest part of what a career is. Job literally stops at something that they do for basically pay is what the job is. So, but companies are the support to culture and careers, and business, successful or not, is merely a reflection of the character of its leadership. And I think that's the biggest thing that out of culture and careers is everything has been about leadership. It's about how you're setting, are you setting the tone of your culture? Are you setting the tone of careers? Because we're talking about a workforce that we're having a hard time attracting people. We have a negative narrative about an industry. The leaders of these companies that create culture, that culture goes beyond your walls. It happens in the conversations with their families. It creates a magnetism so that people are interested in it. Or it also creates people who are megaphones where you're like, no, I'm not kidding. There's a great opportunity here. You should please tell your son, this is what I see. Other than the, hey, do you guys know of any jobs in town? And they're like, no, you don't want to work for my company. We know that that's happening a lot, and it happens more often in construction than a lot of other industries. Even retail turned a huge, made a good corner change, and we were going in a bad direction in about 2005, 2006, when big box was getting really big and the smaller stores were having a hard time keeping people because Best Buys and everybody were paying $5 to $10 more an hour. And it was like, oh my gosh, we can't afford it. What do we do? Well, the culture of a big company had to become part of the retail. So what I mean by that is, like, it's easy for a big company to be like, yeah, you have company culture. We're a small business. Well, every one of our retail stores was small business. We had to make sure that culture lived there. And that's how we started attracting people back into retail, because retail was really kind of it was considered dead end. It had a bad narrative. Do it in high school, but don't go into it after that. I mean, I had store managers, like I said, that base pay was $135,000, and by the end of it, they were about $235,000 after bonus at mall stores. That's the reality of where retail has gone. Apple makes way more than that. If you're a manager at an Apple store, well beyond that. So these are the competitions that are all going on that people are hearing about. We're connected to people. So if this culture and careers is going, you literally, and then the company is the huge support for that. So what is a company? This was really intriguing to me. I'm a big person about how definitions of words are. It's always interesting to me, like, hey, what does Merriam-Webster actually say about this? Could we say, oh, this is my company or this is my business? So with a company, the actual first three definitions is association with another, so fellowship, companions, associates, visitors, guests. So it's about people. And I was like, okay, so definition 2 will definitely be about business, right? No, a group of persons or things, so a company of horsemen, a body of soldiers, an organization of performing artists, the officer and crew of a ship, a firefighting unit. Okay, I've said the word company, still have not gotten to the business term that we use it all the time. And then it's not until technically right here. This one doesn't even really, because medieval trade guild, which I tried to get a little bit more information on that. It does apply a little bit more to construction than anything else, but it really gets into these two. So let's look at this. I mean, a definition is, it started with people. And what we've been talking about as far as culture and careers is it's the people. You can strip the building away and every little bit of equipment that you have. Careers and people, I know we can't do work without those things, but it's about people. And that's the biggest thing that we have to do in construction to change that, is to start attracting these in.
And that's something that you'd mentioned, Peter, when you early on, as you said, the employees don't know who writes the check. They work for me. It's the opposite way. If you're not working for your employees, then that's your culture. And I mean that wholeheartedly. When you look at some of these leaders from these bigger companies and they talk about, no, I work for the 600 people that work for me. I work for them. I'm here in business for them and for their careers, because without them, I don't exist, right? So without my team, without my crew going out and doing what we did at Envision, it was just me. And so I really had a mindset shift when we really started to get into this, is that no, I am working for my employees. I'm working for them, because if I am working to make them successful and happy and get them to grow, then they're going to do the work they need to do for the company, which in turn is for me, right? But if my effort is towards them, it's a different approach. It's a different mindset completely, because it's about the people 100%.
Yep. So company is foundation. So to create that foundation, so we have people, which is the careers part. Technically, culture is the now product and culture is something that I really wanted to consider inside of our business or inside of our industry. Is we are not selling a widget. We have products that technically are repeated over and over by other subcontractors and such like that. Your culture in that product is the difference between that relationship you have with a GC or a customer and somebody else who doesn't have that relationship, because your culture bleeds through all of your people. So it's the way that they're taking that culture of in-house all the way out to how they treat their customer. And so that's something to consider, is like we immediately like, oh, what business are you in? It's like, oh, construction. What do you focus on? This, and this. And it's like, that's the vessel for your people to actually expose them to that culture and everything. And that's why, like, the one thing I'm really impressed with you guys is you guys have engagement in your social media with your employees. Your employees that is hard in construction. If you've ever gone to social media or you look at marketing, it is and I get it. Some people don't want to be in the forefront, but I'm assuming there was kind of some walls that got kind of stripped down over time, and it became, oh wow, we are all in this together. We enjoy what we do, because there's genuine smiles in it, because you can tell when there's like the group photo, and it's just like, okay, yeah, they were there. But these guys are getting involved, and that's a huge thing. I really commend you guys on that, because it's not easy. So I wanted to bring that up, because I went through a lot of the stuff, but it goes beyond just the photo and the social media. That means that's kind of what's happening more often than not, which is exactly what we're talking about, that culture where the handbook stops and life goes on as far as a company. And then purpose, so your vision. So today I wanted to, as far as a company, to really make sure that you are dialed in and start reviewing, do you have a vision statement? I'm not going to get into mission, and here's why. We have a belief that mission is really more malleable, and it's what you're really more customer facing with. Vision is that ability to put a roadmap and an idea to the culture that you have. It's actually like a saying that will go with that, and we'll review that next. So purpose is vision.
Yeah, your mission is changing currently, right? You guys are looking to add more services, and so missions will kind of always evolve, right? New construction might slow down, so your mission might change to more remodels, right? So that's what we're getting at. The mission is always kind of molding and changing with what the economy is like, what the business is like, what's available, where you want to pivot and where you want to change. But the vision should be consistent, and that should be consistent with your culture.
Yep. And vision really helps new people coming into your company to understand where you're trying to go. And it really makes sense when they read that vision and they see a culture of everybody understanding that vision. It becomes encouraging. It becomes something that they kind of start living out, and they know where they're going. And again, there are people who don't fit cultures. There are people who they could be the best person you could ever get. It's like getting LeBron James, 10 years ago. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to have, but it's not good for your culture. It's actually worse than having the great guy and just kind of putting up with it. So that vision really helps get everybody on that same path. So vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. I talk to more contractors, and actually nationally, including actually manufacturers, who are living in action without vision is a nightmare. We have so much construction and so much opportunity that's coming across. We are bidding and sending out and not really driving our business toward the goals that we want, but actually kind of being shaken by the opportunity that's here. We have more companies that are going out of business because they're literally going beyond what they can do in a time when really everybody should be flourishing within their realm. Small businesses should be growing maybe 10% a year. That's pretty comfortable. 7% is a little bit better. Larger companies can support a little bit larger, but they are just acting without a vision, and it's becoming a nightmare. The walls are on fire. We have too much work. We were doing it in vision 100%. It was like, oh my gosh, this apartment is delayed this much, that one delayed, and they are starting the same day. What are we going to do? We didn't have the vision of what is our mission as envisioned right now. We had a lot of remaining 2008, 2009 in our head. We thought, well, what if it all goes away? What are we going to do after that? We jumped at too many things, and we still turned down a ton of work. I mean, unbelievable. But to think that we were not going in with this vision of like, hey, how is the work we're doing supporting what Envision is as a culture and having as a vision, and as an owner, hey, this is where we want to go. You feel a little bit lost in that, and so it becomes that nightmare. So building blocks of a vision. So first off, examine your mission statement. A mission statement is a brief description of a company's fundamental purpose. So review that, make sure that that vision is, I mean, you don't want to be completely off of it. Like, hey, I'm a contractor, but I'm here to completely change the EPA for Truckee Tahoe. Or they obviously have to be in alignment, but the mission is that's your main product. That's exactly what you're doing. The next thing is increase your perspective. Most people's visions stop right at where the headlights end. You really need to be looking up 5 miles ahead. Well, that's really looking at a 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year. How does that vision actually progress through those things and support where you want to go? And that does not mean ideas of grandeur of, well, we're $2.5 million a year right now, and I want to be in 5 years, 25 million. Your ideas of growth doesn't necessarily mean that revenue grows. It could be, our goal is to create the best blank in the industry. That's your people. Maybe that's what literally you're happy with the growth that you have. The margin's good. You want to keep supporting that. And that's actually your business, is creating new people who fit your culture and your business. You're actually now in the business of training. You're not in the business. Your business does what it does. So it's just that vision going forward, that vision has to go beyond like 1 year mark.
And it takes time. I changed our perspective at Envision because I wanted to become more of the owner of the business. I was operating my business every day. I was responsible for more than half of the sales of the company. I was putting out fires left and right. I was involved with my customers, but that didn't give me time to run my business. I was not the owner of the company. I was doing sales and going crazy and say, get this done, but I wasn't leading the company. And I made a change almost 5 years ago now where I was like, no, I need to focus on being the owner and lead this company in the direction we're going to go. That means I can't do sales. That means I can't do this. But I was our number one sales guy. I was responsible for most of our sales. But it took me almost 4 years to get there, of training people, getting salespeople in positions, getting them introduced to contractors, getting them comfortable with plans and takeoffs. But me getting out of sales allowed me to do that. So I stopped doing sales, stopped putting out fires, stopped getting involved in all the projects, and started focusing on my team and my company. And when I sold the company in October, I was barely working. I didn't have an office there for the last 6 months. And it wasn't that I was barely working. I wasn't in the office on a day-to-day basis. I was focused on building the company. I was focusing on business development, focusing on where we were going to go, making sure my managers were happy, making sure that they were good. But that enabled me to step back and be the owner of the business and not the operator of it. And when you get to any business, I don't care if you're 3 people, if you're 10, if you're not owning your business and you're operating it, this stuff isn't going to work for you.
Yeah, he actually opened up more space for all of us to put some other people into offices and stuff. And it was more, at first everybody was like, oh, you're getting rid of your office. And, the reality is he hung out with us more often in all of our offices, but he opened it up. And that was more of a, hey, culturally, you guys are super important. You need to have my office. I'll get out of there. Let's figure out how to rearrange this. And then you had to spend more time in Vegas with our location down there, because when you're a salesperson around here, you're spending more of your time here.
And the purpose was that also is that if I wasn't around, if something happened, the company would continue to go. And this all came from some tragedies I had in my life with some deaths of some close friends, and kind of changed my perspective, to be completely honest. And so I was like, what happens if I'm not here tomorrow? The company, if 5 years ago, would have crumbled because I was responsible for the sales. I had it all on my desk. I had all the bids. I was doing it all. And so, when I sold the company in October, business went on as usual. Like, the people knew what they had to do. They were in their spots. They understood. The culture was like, you guys are in charge. You make your decisions. Something hard comes up, we'll work with you. But I empowered them to be the leaders they should have been.
And it took away a lot of doubt in a lot of them. So what I witnessed was a lot of guys stepped up to a plate that I didn't know that they could step up to. Guys were interested in soft skills that they would never, they didn't say, hey, I'm interested in soft skills. They just literally came to me and like, hey, I'm really interested in Excel. I want to get better at this. Josh, I saw Josh did that. Can you teach me? They stepped up in ways because there was a void there, because it wasn't, hey, this guy's telling you what to do. on Tuesday, I need it by Wednesday, and I know what my task was. It was people kind of stepping into more, not a manager role. They weren't getting the title, but it was more leadership within their realm, and they were desiring more. They desired to learn more, and that was huge. So, so as I talked, like we increase our perspective and what's the timeline, and then commit and communicate. That's, I'm going to tell you right now, the hardest thing. That is the hardest thing, is communication of this vision and committing to it day in and day out when the walls become on fire and something changes and everything, to keep that idea. The communication is that you have to actually keep reminding about it. You got to have like conversations about it. Be like, hey, this is what we do. You know, CATT has this. I think, you know, it gets talked about quite a bit. That's almost, I mean, that's the mission statement. The vision for the company is, it should be more encouraging for the whole team that's there. Like, okay, yep, we got to remind that. You know, even if it does mean, hey, a project's coming up and it's like, we're not going to go that way. It doesn't support this, this, and this. The whole group gets it because you keep communicating it. It can't go out once, and it can't live just in a handbook and hope that they read it. They most likely don't read the handbook. It needs to be kind of coming from you, and it needs to even be that, like, you're not repeating the exact same words, but it's the vision and where you've internalized it and said it. Everybody will have their little iterations of it, but everybody's in the same goal, and they can almost repeat that idea, because again, that goes back to the culture that, like, hey, we're all here for this. And companies can create that. They really can. So as Josh was talking about, is operating towards the future, is the idea that we need to empower people who are in our company to start taking on certain things. We had 0 sales from Josh, I think basically end of 17 through 18. And it actually empowered us to do better because he had more time to actually review with guys. Obviously our business was a lot of takeoffs, a lot of custom work, and we bid a ton. I mean, way too much.
Way too much.
Yes.
Yeah, we actually start turning down bids beforehand, because it's like, what's the purpose of bidding a job if you can't do it? And so having that communication with them, you know, they would get bid requests and they would have a conversation. They wouldn't just jump into it, start bidding it. We would have a conversation. Does this fit with our goal? When's the schedule look like? Do we want to take the time to bid this? And it wasn't because we had overwhelming enough work. It's because we wanted to focus on the work we wanted to do. We had a vision and a mission of the work we wanted to focus on. We stopped doing service work. It didn't fit with what we wanted to do. We wanted to focus on our customers and go that route. So, you know, understanding where you want to go and what you want to do, you know, has to fit into this.
And just going back to vision real quick, I just wanted to say is, so the building blocks of vision, we went through this steps actually with the senior leadership, but also just senior guys of the group. They have really good tenure, about, you know, actually 24 years this year is Kevin. Yeah. And there's like 10 of them who are like 15-year plus. And Josh didn't come in with the idea of, hey, this is what my vision is for the company. He said, this is where I would like to get to. How do you think we shape this vision to get there? And that was how we got away from services. They were like, look, we got to quit wasting our time on this stuff. We're running out and doing this. It's taking good guys away from good work. And he was like, okay, our vision is for, you know, being the leader in custom glass and, you know, and being a company that created careers. Like, that was where we started going. Well, those guys that were in that meeting now are now actually general managers. We kind of split it, but they're general managers now at Envision. They went from making screens to GMs of solid company. Yeah. So that them being a part of that vision is really good too. Obviously, as a leader of the company and owners of the company, like, you're going to set that tone. This is where we go. But their impact of how you can get there is pretty unbelievable. There's insights, like I said, that just come from them that you would never expect, and it's really good to have those open conversations. So as Josh kind of alluded to, is like, how are you setting up your company to operate on its own? And it's not, hey, I just want to step out and retire. It's how can you have that 30,000 foot level of your company, start really looking at different things that are happening in the industry. You know, a workforce issue like we're having, like, how am I going to navigate this? I should be the one kind of helping with that, not going, hey, HR or operations person or whoever I have, I need you to find me people. Well, they have a small perspective of like, okay, well, I know I can go through a couple different things and find some people, but you got to go bigger. But that means you have to let some of that work off of your, you know, open up the bandwidth for yourself. So, do you have anything to add on? Like, and then who is the visionary of your company? That's an interesting thing that I found when we started doing interviews with a lot of different groups, is that you you would think as the owner that was the visionary of the company, yet some of the business development people unfortunately drove it where they thought it was supposed to be going, or got into business that they thought that's where everybody wanted because the visionary wasn't at the actual head. It doesn't mean that the visionary can't be with them, but it needs to be kind of guarded along the right path. We've interviewed where the owner talks about something completely different than their main, like a sales manager or main sales guy. He's like, no, this is where we're going. And it's like, oh, you guys didn't even say the same thing. Yeah. So figuring out who is the visionary of the company. Is it a co-visionary? Do both of you blend? I mean, I know you guys have gone through some big changes and new people. I mean, blending visions is not easy, but I think it's awesome because most of the time you augment each other, right? If you're finding that you're augmenting each other, that vision becomes real poignant. But make sure that you are the visionary of the company and make sure that you are sharing, again, that vision with them. And what's the biggest weakness of your company's operational structure right now? You know, what's your biggest challenge operationally as far outside of people? I mean, I get it. That's one of the hardest ones. What do you think? What's one of the things that you're dealing with right now?
From my perspective?
Yeah, from your perspective, 100% your perspective.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a two-part thing. One is understanding and effectively managing the interface between the client and us.
Okay.
Because clients often come with the expectation that we're going to perform the role of builder, architect, interior designer, and you know I've done all those things. I can do it, but I don't have time, as you just pointed out.
100%.
This is like, and I just in the last year or so, I come to this realization, and I'm actually cultivating a relationship with an interior designer. And as soon as people start going into all this crazy custom stuff, I'm just going to say, here's your person who's going to manage that and help you with that and provide us with all the drawings. Because I'm getting photographs on this thing right here, and they're saying, this is what we want.
Yeah.
And I'm spending hours of my time, and my time can be leveraged so much more if I'm, as you said, Josh, kind of overseeing an operation, driving a vision, a direction, a purpose for the business.
So putting those people in the right spot, having the right people in the right spot. Absolutely.
And it's unfortunately with the size that we are, I'm kind of in the middle where I'm doing way too much of too many things. And some of it is fun. I enjoy doing design and, kind of coming up with ideas and the creative aspect of it. But we're at a certain level where everybody wants that. It's not like the old days when you go into Tahoe Donner and build the same box, 4 or 5 or 6 times a year and keep doing that year after year after year. There's still a couple guys in TD who are doing that. But everywhere else, people, want crazy stuff. And and it's a lot of it is driven by the web too. They see things on Houzz and other websites where you go, you can do that, right? And I'm sure that was an unlimited budget from some house in Vail or Aspen, and you want that in Tahoe Donner, really?
But from the operational side for you, you're getting these things from them, and then you're having to go do it as well.
Sure, and no, I think the conclusion is I've slowly been coming to that point over the last couple of years, but you guys just put the hammer on it and
think about this as far as like the idea is that as people who have a vision and have created a business and everything, we hold on tightly, but it can unfortunately get to a point where the idea grows big enough and we've suffocated it. Because we're actually the blockade between some of the opportunities, and it's like, have the right person in the right spot. We brought Weston on. I have an absolute vision for marketing. I've been exposed to some of the greatest campaigns I've ever seen. We have changed as far as how we get things done. He's a ninja at what he does. I'm excited for him. I mean, this is literally his first day, and I said, hey, why don't you come up and listen to what we're talking about, and so we can understand. But it was understanding weaknesses in me. I needed augmented by somebody else. That's how we do this. Now, headcount is, and we'll get to that next, but that's something you have to worry about. But it's finding those right people for that seat, and if they pick up where your weakness is, most likely you're a lot stronger than you are just by like, hey, I'm not going to pay that person this. I'm just going to go through. We finally got Josh to get an admin. That was the best thing that ever happened to us because we all stopped helping him with it. But it was so big because calendar organization and stuff, because it was all on one person. Nobody else knew what was going on, and it was really good. It was more organizational. I think there's a lot of people in companies like, oh, I'm not that big that I need an admin. Who's that person who kind of plays that part? You can have multiple roles. We over-define ourselves with job descriptions and names. The reality is, who's the cultural fit to you and person who's going to help you really get to that next level. So, so operationally, you've got a lot of people coming in, a lot of data coming into you, people with grand ideas from HGTV that said, hey, I can remodel my kitchen for $5,000, which is
That's HGTV.
Yes, that's which, by the way, is in Canadian dollars because that's where they do all. It's all in Canada.
Yeah.
So it's all.
10,000 Americans.
Yeah.
It's definitely not in California.
It's not in California, and yeah, how $5,000?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
What would you said you're already mulling it around. You've been kind of kicking on it. Like, what do you think are those next steps for changing it? I mean, we can't change the customer. They have more data, which is also our customer is also our employees, right? They have more information and data that they can find right now than ever as far as, well, what are people paying? What are the benefits? What are this? We can know all this. In housing, it's like, well, no, they're doing glass that's 15 feet tall. We should be able to do that, right?
We did.
Well, we did, yeah.
But something that I did to change it, and then I took this from reading some books and doing just self-help and learning and business. I mean, we all have to kind of evolve, and something that I really did to change it was kind of analyze what I did on a daily basis. Like, where was my time spent? How much time was I spending on the phone? How much time was I spending with a client? How much time was I doing this? And it turned out that I was spending a majority of my time finalizing bids and putting things in the computer. I shouldn't be doing that. That's not my role. That's not my place. And so, it's really evaluating what you're doing every single day, where your time is spent and where your time is best spent, and then figuring out how to fill those voids so you're not doing that. And that's the best way to change it, is to just kind of evaluate your day, evaluate your week. It sounds weird, but write down the times you're doing it, what you're doing, and then look back at it and reflect on what you've done. And say, okay, what's most important? What can I do the most? What's most valuable to the company for me to be doing? And then everything that's not, get it off your plate, give it to somebody else. And if you have to hire that person, you have to bring somebody into that position, then make that change. It's worth its weight in gold for the energy and the stress and the amount it opens up your mind to actually be able to work on the company instead of in it.
And the person that we brought in for him, this was an opportunity to really prove a succession plan, and the idea was Robbie. Robbie had 18 years in the field. He had installed I don't know how many thousands of windows. He was the number one Weiland guy in the area. Weiland would grab him to help him with anything, help Weiland with anything. Like they knew Robbie, and Josh was like, you know what? I'm not thinking about our field as far as their next steps. I got to start this. Robbie stepped into basically estimating and business development. It was a perfect time for him to introduce him to almost everybody, but everybody knew Robbie already. He started to work with him as far as that progression of what does it mean to balance office life and putting things into a computer. He was helping with the sale. He was still showcasing what that sale looked like. Robbie was putting it in, and at the end of that, in literally 18 months, I think truly he was on his feet and beating everybody else in sales. And it's because we took somebody from the field who had so much experience that we taught them soft skills like sales and some Excel and some email, and they ended up completely running with it. It got off his plate. They ended up collaborating more, actually thinking much more outside the box, like, hey, what projects do we want to work on and stuff. It was unbelievable. We wanted to keep recreating that. We really did. It's just we had to have people. We needed to bring people in to train and window install and some of those custom things. So you can change it. It takes work. There's no system. There's no technology. There's no nothing that's going to come in and
After that.
no. I'm telling you, like as far as project management, I swear on my life that everybody is telling everyone that if you implement Procore, if you implement Buildertrend, if you implement this Sage 100 Contractor, down to tiny small ones, they swear that they are going to fix construction. Construction as a whole right now is a narrative that we have to change, and then companies to really start highlighting what it is that they have that's awesome. And it's amazing in our area. We have really good companies as well. We got to start showcasing those, but you got to work on the internal of your company, and it'll attract people to you. You will have people coming back to your door knocking like, hey, I want to work for you, because those 14 people, so let's say out of those 3, out of those 11, we turn them into basically positive like megaphones for you that they're like, no, I love who I'm working for. Now you got people knocking. Now you have a backlog of people who are like, oh, if I ever lose anybody, now I can bring somebody. I mean, it's unbelievable what it can really do. So one of the things that we want to talk about is as you're looking at your operation and how you are as a company, because if your people, which is the main part of the culture and the careers, if they feel comfortable, some of these things are getting yourself ready for making sure that you're just aligned on your company. That was the big thing that we implemented that I brought from Oakley, was understanding like inventories, understanding things like that. So like prepare. So assets inventory. Too often it'll go years where it's not like we're really up to date on exactly what we have. At the end of the day, that's really what your company is. It's the stuff that you've invested in. Take time to do that. It'll help everybody, for one, value what it is you have. It'll make sure that you're on the forefront of knowing what's all there.
You'd be shocked by the amount of companies that we've met, that I talked to, that do not have any kind of control over what they have as far as assets. Now, trucks and equipment, they're better at, but actually inventory, I mean, a lot of these companies you're thinking about, you're like, well, no, I'm sure you guys have all of your trucks and all of your asset sheets, and you guys know exactly the equipment you have. It's amazing how people don't, and how lost they are. They don't know how many tools they have and what tools are theirs and where they are. It's a lot, especially in construction when you have so many small little pieces.
Yeah. So these pieces make up the company that support the culture and the careers. So we have to make sure that we're focused on these as well. I mean, again, I know that this is it's cyclical. I mean, they're all based on each other, but office and tech, how many of you guys know what computers you're running, what computers you have, when you bought them, when they should be, those are parts of your assets. You need to make sure. Am I making somebody who's working on, I didn't know this. I had no idea. The commercial manager was working on a hand-me-down computer that was from, I don't know what year. You're an a-hole. No. Ops was. I didn't know that, but I changed it to where, hey, we're going to start writing all these down. We need to know what these things are, because these are the tools that are for the people who are working for our company, who represent the culture and the careers of our company. We need to respect that, hey, we need to know these things, and it's just going to help you understand your company more and more. So making sure you're like looking at those things yearly, it's really huge. But product inventory, install materials, main inventory. We were so project-based, it was kind of up and down, but we really started getting really good on install materials, because it also helped us start driving margin. We also started putting a dollar amount to what our install materials were, so that our team knew what was going on. Them knowing how much things cost, they respected it more. They also respected us, because they're like, hey, thanks for sharing that. We had no idea how much that ever was. Most of them just don't look into it.
When I told them that a roll of the Flex Seal, was $100-something, they were like, what? Like, yeah, every little piece counts. Yeah. Keep it.
Yeah, Chris said, oh, I won't forget it anymore at the site anymore. And then protect. So actively review your assets. Make sure that, we're supporting all these tools that are supporting the people that are part of our company. Actively review equipment, be current on technologies available to your trades to improve efficiencies. Now, I was also saying, hey, there's project management, there's all these things that are saying they're fixing stuff, but I didn't know that some of the computers were running an older Excel. I was sending out files that they couldn't open up, and I was causing a blockade there, and it was like I wasn't respecting who they were. That's how it kind of basically came back. So just make sure that, if we're giving phones to them, make sure everything works. It's a respect for them. Like, hey, here's a tool. This is from personal. I didn't know this was how it was going. We were literally rolling out we changed from AT&T to T-Mobile, and then we're going to Verizon. And the phones were being handed to the guys saying, hey, figure it out. Good luck. I had no idea. Shame on me. I wasn't involved in that process. It just wasn't. And it was like and I got finally word weeks later. They're like, yeah, my phone's not working right. It was like, okay, guys, that was a bad cultural part of ours, because we had all IT bogging down one person, and I changed it. Hey, when we do rollouts like this, I have enough tech savviness. I come in and help you. We do that kind of stuff, and it took a weight off of his shoulders. He got happier. The field got happier, and then we were back to normal. But I didn't know that it was just rolling out in these bad ways. So your vision needs to be, hey, even in the rollouts of small little operational things, it really plays into all of it. And then actively plan your CapEx, plan for preventive maintenance, plan for expansion, plan for headcount. So that planning is to understand where are my future people going. I thought,
No, and it's important when you're planning for expansion. It doesn't happen overnight, right? You can't grow your business. You couldn't add 10 people to your company tomorrow, and you can't change the services you guys are doing tomorrow. It's a matter of planning ahead and knowing where you want to go and knowing the timeline to get there. And it just takes planning ahead. It's the same thing with hiring people, same with adding people to your team. You can't just go out and find somebody in 30 days. It doesn't exist anymore. We're at zero unemployment essentially. So if you think you're magically going to go put an ad out for somebody you need, and they're going to magically appear in 30 days and the stars are going to align, you didn't plan very well, right? You need to be looking ahead. You need to be planning on what you're looking for to find the right person. Take the time to actually actively go out and find the right person, or go find the right client, find the right job, whatever it is, but you need to be thinking ahead and planning, and that's a huge part of the culture that actually builds the careers.
and the reason that I kind of talked about finance things is that by planning these things first and why headcounts last, we've got to know the dollar amount first. Too often, I'm watching construction companies jump at people before they're looking at, hey, what does this really impact on my cash flow? What does this really impact on payroll? Wow, I'm getting this person from here and I'm paying him this, but he had benefits like this and whatever it was. Like, they're not planning far enough ahead because walls are on fire. We're trying to get a lot of work done, and it's not good for the employee either. They don't feel comfortable in that, where it's like, you hear the owner or the operator, yeah, we'll figure it out. We're working on it right now. It's like, wait, I'm brand new. You didn't have a truck ready for me, or you didn't have a guy for me to go with, or, oh, you ran out of seats in all of your truck. We literally had that happen. We had a guy get hired on, and it was like, where are we going to put him?
And we hear it from companies, all over the place we talk to. We hear it all the time, where they're just like, if I add a new person, it's going to solve it. But you're not prepared or ready for them because you didn't plan to have that person. You're just hoping if I bring them on, then it's going to solve the problem. It doesn't work that way.
No, in fact, actually, most of the time it does make bigger headaches. So when you're really actively planning, hey, what does our expansion look like? What does that mean? I'm not saying that you're growing revenue humongous, but you're like, hey, I'm expanding into new services. I really want to stay at this revenue, so I'm switching one of our product services into this area. How do I get that to overlap? Or yes, I do want to grow, but I want to grow about 3 to 4 people. How much work do I need to have signed for a contract to support that? It's really making sure that we have a safety net to the people we're bringing in as far as a career, because once that bad situation happens, they tell 27 people about, hey, I went to this company, I started with them, 4 months later they couldn't afford me, or the place was on fire, I couldn't, nobody knew what was going on. They tell 27 people. In a bad situation, you tell 27 people. In a good situation, you tell 6. So that's not going to help as far as growing more employees and everything like that.
Tell it on social media.
Oh, yeah.
They do.
Still 27 other people talking
They have
about
Glassdoor.com right now, right? They have Glassdoor. They have Indeed. They get to share their opinion of your company as quickly as they can. And I will say, yes, big companies are probably the majority of those. That'll go away. Yelp was the big companies. Now it's the tiniest companies is on Yelp. Glassdoor, the reason that they got bought for $2.1 billion because of the data they have, and it's growing daily. Like the amount of data that's coming in saying, hey, I actually make this. And companies are getting in trouble because they're basically putting out there, hey, the job pays $78,000 a year. And all these people across the country are like, I never hit 78. I was making 62. Like putting photos of like their W-2 at the end of the year. Like this is against big companies, like I said, but if that's a trend where people are doing that, it will seep into our small business. We have to be prepared to really, defend that by doing the right thing, right? We need to make sure our company is doing the right thing. And so if we're talking about preparing, protecting, and planning, and I thought this quote was just awesome because too often I think we're opposite on this. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. How sharp is your axe right now? How many times are you swinging more right now than you would if you were prepped, planned, and ready to go? And that's why the company as a foundation supports culture and careers. We need to be sharpening our axe. We need to be laser focused. And we need to allow for leadership to not be bogged down by possibly task things so that they can have that vision, that 30,000 foot level, come down to 15,000 foot level, be a part of the group, and then really guide what that company is. And I'm telling you, with those types of things in place, you will start attracting people to your company. It's a natural magnetism that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I'll go into the site a little bit. We'll show you guys the platform and the site and things that we're doing, some of the blogs that we're writing. And like I said, what our goal was for this 3-part series was to just kind of shed a light on the things that we can be doing to make things better in our industry and for our company. And as CATT, CATT is really good at, and why I'm a big part of CATT, is they're really good in the community about affecting change for the community. I want to help CATT get to that industry-wide where we're actually affecting and helping the industry grow, because this industry is an amazing industry. We have great opportunity here, but if we're not attracting people and we're not changing, then we're going to have a really hard time to even fix the problems we have. So the purpose behind all this was to shine a light on it, hopefully give you guys some good resources and some good thoughts into your own company to kind of go and implement these things, and hopefully you guys have a stronger company and a stronger future and a place to go, and a place to grow. And that's the purpose why we did this. So I thank you guys for coming. I really do appreciate it. And so we'll just do a quick overview of the site to show you guys what Ground Up Construct is and what we're doing on a national basis, and trying to educate and teach. And then that'll be it for the day.
I'll drive if you want to kind of walk through it.
Yeah. So, the mission of Ground Up Construct, the mission of what we're doing with CATT is to empower the people that are building the future. And we want to grow the industry, we want to grow the narrative, and we want to change the idea that construction is a bad career. What do you offer your employees as far as benefits, retirement plans, or you just?
No, we pay an annual bonus and paid vacation.
Yeah. And so, something that's very particular about us, and something that I think you'll want to consider, and something you guys I think are already working on and doing, is that benefits, we talked about this in the last period, benefits, retirement, and succession planning are some of the most important factors to these generations. They're super expensive to have. We know they cost money, but when you're competing with every other industry out there, not just construction, when you're competing with manufacturing, you're competing with, in this area, hotels, you're competing with resorts, benefits are a huge part of it, and it's a huge part of a career. And so when people are looking to come find a company and find a career, benefits are on top of their list, because it's hard to navigate on your own. It's hard to go get benefits on your own. It's hard to pay for it on your own. So if your company is not providing it for you, they're actually willing to move jobs for less pay to a company that has benefits, because it takes the stress out of their life. So benefits are a huge part of that. And that's something that we promote on our platform 100%, is that employees that come to our platform who are looking for a career, we're guaranteeing them that they're going to find good quality companies that are offering benefits, that are talking about retirement plans, and they're talking about training. We're not requiring that we have all of them, but requiring that our companies have some sort of that to be on our platform. I've turned away a handful of companies for our platform. I said, you're just not a fit, because the purpose of our company is not in Indeed. Our goal is not to get 3 million companies using our site. Our goal is to improve construction, and I can only do that by highlighting the companies that are shaping the industry and changing the future. There's companies on here that have a $10,000 hiring bonus. I'm not saying that's something you have to do, but that's how competitive it is in their market. It's Applewood Plumbing. $10,000 hiring bonus, full paid benefits for them and their family, 401k, 4% match, paid vacations, and they have succession planning and career paths that they advertise on their site, that they advertise on our site, to show if you start here, here's a succession plan, here's a career path. It's not possible for every company. I get that. It's hard. But I can tell you right now that in the next few years, as our economy continues to grow, and even if it starts to level off, actually for us, some of the best thing in our industry would be a little bit of a slowdown, because companies can start grabbing some really good people. But you're going to start seeing this where if you're not on this bandwagon, it's going to be really hard for you to find people. Very, very difficult. So we're a tool for candidates to find good companies. They can come in and they can search keywords, they can search locations, they can search any kind of skilled trades, and they can browse jobs by trades as well as what they're looking for. And that gives them all the jobs that are out there. And some of the jobs that are up there. But if you want to go to blog real quick,
Sure,
talk about that. So some of the biggest things that we're doing, again, our biggest, I'm going to say this over and over again, is the change in narrative. The narrative out there is that construction is hard work. That's true. But there's benefits to it. That it's dead end, that there's no benefits, that there's no retirement. These are the things that have been said to our, and that you're not a success if you go into construction, right? We've always said you got to go to college to be successful. That's a narrative that we want to change. A lot of that is done through our social media and through our marketing. That's why we have Weston on board with us today. we have a lot of work to do, and we can't do this alone. And I say this to all of our companies we meet with. I say this to all of the associations we partner with. We can't do it alone. We need associations like CATT to get on board and get on the mission to start talking about careers and talking about opportunities to change the mindset about construction. We're doing the same thing with BAN in Reno. We're doing the same thing with Nevada Builders Alliance. We're working with Iowa Skilled Trades. We're slowly working our way across the country with associations, because Josh and I in Ground Up Construct cannot change the narrative. It has to come as a unified front from all of the people in the industry to show the opportunities that exist. And if we can show the opportunities, show there's good companies, show there's good culture, people will get interested in it for sure. So some of the way we're doing that is a lot of blogs that we're writing, 5 tips on how to create company culture. You can come in here, log in, go to the blogs and read about all the resources. How to become a skilled tradesperson is another one we've put in. Tips on to retain top talent. These are things we've talked about on retaining your talent, being engaged with them. And this is for owners. It's important for your people to know what's next for them. Otherwise, $1 an hour sounds more enticing when they get tapped on the shoulder. And that shoulder tapping is happening every single day. I hear horror stories around the industry, people going to the job sites and saying, hey, come with me right now, I'll give you $5 more an hour. And the guy's dropping his bag and he's leaving.
And they got $500 cash in their pocket to get them to go. I mean,
and it's happening. These are not made up stories. This is happening on a daily basis. It's going to get even harder in areas like this. And I said this in our meeting the other night. You guys, this is a tight little community. We all kind of know each other and work with each other here. It's going to start getting to the point where it's ugly, because when people aren't here, companies do what they have to do to survive. So, attracting talent to your business is another one that we wrote. One of the favorite ones that we wrote, go down to the loved one if you can find it, was the loved one campaign, talking about to the moms, the uncles, the grandpas, the nephew, everybody else, because they tend to care about their sons, daughters, friends more than they care about themselves. So one of our big campaigns that we pushed out was the loved one campaign. It's time for the talk. And that was us saying, hey, when you're at the dinner table and you're at a family event and you hear somebody complaining about no benefits or a bad job, there is opportunity out there. Or a kid who's looking to start a career. Let's talk to them about that way,
This came from personal experience. So I was listing a lot of our jobs. I was having a terrible time. In 2017, I spent $7,000 trying to recruit. For a small business in Reno that's got a second location in Las Vegas, I felt like that was kind of expensive. I was like, holy cow, like that wasn't the plan. I eroded marketing budget and some different things. So in that $7,000, I had listed probably 8 or 9 glazing or window positions. I got 25 applicants that were not just somebody who's like, I just want to get out of warehousing, because I was hiring for that 5-year guy. I was not going, hey, how do I grow these guys up? So about $7,000. So obviously not a lot of people in that. So I started going toward Facebook and doing it through those so that people could share and kind of find out how to do it, because we are becoming culturally just all about this like network thing, right? I mean, even on Facebook, people are networking. I had more moms, aunts, uncles, dads forwarding the jobs to their son, who actually had a whole bunch of experience, but he's not like active on Facebook. He probably gets home and he's like, they weren't looking for anything. They're like, I've got a job, I'm good. And that's how we got them. And I was like, oh my gosh, the loved one in construction, because we are such a family, you referred to it, we're a family industry, which I don't think that's going to change. I think we're tighter knit than anybody gives credit to, and so I think there's a lot of family members who are watching out for their aunts or for their nephews and their sons and stuff, and be like, hey, I know you're working for them, but like, did you see that they're doing this? It was just that was eye-opening for me. I didn't recruit in the typical way. I needed mom and dad and aunt and uncle to be. I led with things that would trigger them because I needed it forwarded to them. And that was really what shaped what we did as far as our jobs, because we wanted to lead with, this is about a good career, not just a job description that somebody wrote to say, look, you're coming in and doing this every day, and if you're not here. It's too often that's kind of what we do.
So like I said, our biggest mission and our biggest goal is to bring people into our industry and to empower the people that build it, to show the people that are in the industry, if you've been doing this for so long, you've been a framer, an electrician, a plumber, whatever it is for so long, we need to have next steps in our career. We can't expect them to be a carpenter for 30 years. That just isn't how the generations want to work. And I think you've probably heard that in your talk. They want succession planning. They want to know what's next. And when you engage with your employees and you say to them, listen, I know you're here today. What do you want to do in the next 5 years? What's your plan? What's your goal? Well, I'd really like to get into project management. I'd like to get into estimating, or I'd like to get into running a crew. Okay, well, let's put a plan to that. Let's work on it. And if you put in that succession plan, you put in that training, that engages your employees and they don't want to leave, and that will help you retain them. So all of our messaging, all of our social media posts, all of our marketing, all of the resources we're putting out are focused on what we talked about today, talking about culture, talking about careers, and how that turns into a company. We want to go into one of the company sites.
So I was just going to lead real quick. So we were talking about attracting people, is that, we really do lead with like the benefits and about the job. And then the day-to-day responsibilities is not as overwhelming as what a lot of people are doing. So
Go to the company page real quick.
yeah.
So what the companies that come on our site, what we give them is a company page on our site to talk about who they are as an employer. Because like I said, the days of Indeed, the days of ZipRecruiter, the days of these big conglomerate job boards where there's 11 million jobs and they're just reading a list and list of things. It's not a deep dive, and there's a pay to play. You can put anything you want in there and you can say, hey, we're the best company in the world. And then you show up and they're really not good. We're truly vetting the companies that we let on our site. Our goal is not to have a couple million companies. It's not. Our goal is to change the industry. So companies come on here, they really talk about who they are. They talk about their headquarters. They talk about the team that leads them. I think it's really important to highlight who your team is and even how they got there. You can put as much information in there as you would like to talk about how you got to that position. A lot of people in these companies, especially at Envision, and I've heard stories around the industry, started off as a laborer and now project manager, estimator, or own their own businesses. So sharing those stories is key. Talking about the team is important. We discussed the mission statement, the vision statement, any awards won, company milestones, and then projects that they work on as well. Go back up a little bit. What's that? Groundupconstruct.com. And then we get into the benefits, and this is really, really important, especially as you get into the millennials and Gen Z and post-millennial. They care about this more than you know. They care about the benefits. They care about vacation time. I don't want to get into the whole work-life balance. They care that they have time off and they get paid. And we talked about that last week. You guys missed last week, but it was so important about the stressors that when people don't have paid time off and how bad it was affected them. And unfortunately, it still happens every day. So we talk about benefits, talk about rest and relaxation, talk about the future, and then we highlight the projects that companies work on so people get a deep dive into it. And then same thing happens in the job. And so this is we are more than just another job board. We are a resource to promote construction and promote careers. And that's why we're particular about who comes on the site. So we can tell our candidates, if you come here and find a company, you're going to find a company that has good culture, that has good benefits, and that has succession planning for you. Retirement's a bonus. I think 401k is important. We can all talk about the importance of that. A lot of companies are doing it. It's a key factor for people, but it's a way to really promote who you are as a company and to build your workforce with career-minded people instead of just hiring people that show up at your door because you need them. So that was it. Yeah. So thank you guys for your time.
So are you guys, is the site primarily a job board, or I guess I'm having a hard time. I just want to understand what specifically you guys do. Are you consultants that work with these companies to create culture and succession planning? Do you guys offer that service?
We do not do any consulting currently. Our consulting, the things that we are doing right now, is through our blogs and through our social media to give the ideas out there. Our focus is training, and our focus is helping companies attract talent based on that. As far as coming in and consulting, we have different packages available where we talk with different companies that we can come in and help with that for sure. But it's not it's part of one of the packages that we offer is to actually talk about succession planning and training. But that comes with it. That comes with succession planning is through training for some companies. Your company probably doesn't have as much training. I mean, you definitely can be teaching people leadership and whatnot. But when you get into a company who's trying to develop, an electrician or a carpenter that wants to hire somebody new, we also have those training programs as well. That's where we get some more of the consulting side of it. Exactly. So no, the purpose of this Lunch and Learn was just to give a bunch of value to help people understand what's important out there, what's happening in the market, and to give some forethought into your company and how you can kind of go down that road. But we'd love to talk to you more about it for sure.
Yeah, because like our deep dive, and so taking you back 2 years, this started out as ground up trade school. We really thought that we were going to need to create trade schools across the country and we we're going to fix the problem. We knew that, educators and our programs were getting cut left and right, and it was like, hey, it's time to go get back out there. And we really did our own look at ourselves. And I was like, well, wait, how did we get Kevin up to that spot? He didn't go to trade school. Okay, what about Jeff? Nope, he didn't. wait, where'd they learn all this? And it was like, oh, they all learned from J&L Windows into Envision, all the same company essentially, but that's where it was like, why are we trying to create a trade school? Why are we building another building? Literally a trade school is living and breathing every day on every job site. Now our training augments that with some online training to help them with vernacular, understand blueprint reading, construction math, international building code, things like that can go to the next level. But to your point, like this whole lunch and learn got built up out of all of our research. It was like, oh, maybe they just don't have a good place to look for construction jobs. Maybe people can't find those good jobs because, there's 11 million jobs on Indeed and Craigslist kind of sucks. Well, we really found out, no, you can find them, but it's about the companies that are creating, magnetism toward them. And it was through culture and careers that was a missing part. So we kind of self-help figured it out like, okay, well, these are the things we're learning. This is not our background at all. I'm marketing, you've been in construction. Well, I've been in construction as well, but we just started really diving into what are these companies that are outside of construction doing and what are these companies in construction doing that have similarities that are creating good workforce and Helix Electric's another, one of those ones. I took a lot from what they do, and they have 5,000 employees now and they're non-union. And they're multiple states. I can't remember how many states there are.
But our like I said, our mission for the company and our goal for the industry is to change the narrative. That's really what this is about. It's about showing the opportunities and getting more people interested in our industry because I believe in construction. I love construction. I grew up in it my entire life. I think there's unlimited opportunities to come learn carpentry, come learn to be an electrician, and go start your own company. One of our good friends here owns Robert Electric. He's a contractor who does electrical work up here in Tahoe. He came from Romania with $600 in his pocket. He had tons of electrical training in Romania, moved here because he wanted the opportunity. He now owns his own company in Tahoe and is a millionaire and is buying a really nice house in Incline and kills it. That's a great story to tell, but we're not telling those stories to the youth. We're not showing the examples of that guy, of Scott Gates, who's Western Windows, who started off, as a construction, laborer and is now the CEO of Western Windows. We don't share these stories. We don't tell the succession plans. We don't tell the stories of Q&D, of Norm Deanda, of what he did with his cabinet company and turned it into a couple $1 billion company. Same things here with good stories. Laverty's got a great story. He started off in construction and an architect, and now he's got a huge. We have tons of stories to share in construction that show the opportunities show the opportunity to grow and actually be successful. But our schools are not helping us. K through 12 is saying you got to go to college. Our parents aren't helping. The parents in this neighborhood are telling their kids you got to go to college. Successful contractors are telling their kids to go to college. Don't go into construction. And these guys are millionaires building homes.
Yeah, we don't mind if they say, hey, go to college, but yep, you're going to come, work in construction. Their kids are literally being told, no, don't go into the headache that I'm having. And I won't say who it is. It's one of the biggest builders. Like, I was just like shocked. I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, it kind of bums me out. The kid was bummed. He was like, yeah, so I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do. It was like, he was excited for that.
Yeah, so we have an uphill battle. We have all these people telling people that construction is a shit career, and it's not true. And I don't believe that at all. And so our mission is to change that narrative and show that. And the only way that I could see to truly do that was to highlight companies that are shaping the future of construction. And I can do that through a platform and through our marketing efforts to show the world that there are amazing companies that have great opportunity. Delta Pipeline is another great company. They're an employee-owned company down in Southern California. Fully employee-owned. All the employees have a stake in the company. They've grown, exponentially, and they are killing it.
So to be clear, you are hosting
Jobs and companies, for sure.
companies.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
We're just doing it differently than the ability to just sign up. And we really are putting almost, a lot of the dollars toward highlighting who these companies are in a way, as opposed to just being on a job board and hoping they're being found. We really
a monthly membership, or is it like when you need it, you can use it?
No, it's an annual partnership.
It's an annual
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
because the other thing is that everybody goes job hunting, 30-day job board. Let's see who I can get. The reality is you really need to change your idea about year-round recruiting. You should have kind of a backlog. You should be collecting some resumes that, hey, maybe I'm going to come and talk to that person in a bit, or say, just be real transparent. I'm not hiring right now, but through that process, you can actually on our site say, hey, we always employ these positions. always accepting applications, and here's what that job looks like, or whatever it is. It's not misleading. You're absolutely fine, and you can collect these resumes so that you can really be prepared for, or saying, hey, we're planning for in this month to be hiring. We'd like to get this going, and you just do it all year long. But then you can switch out the different jobs so that when you do lose somebody, okay, great, I do need to hire somebody in that. You can switch real quick as opposed to going, hey, another $456 with Indeed, to boost it.
Well, and in my business, I was always hiring. I always needed good people. And you never know, especially in Reno, who's moving to town. And in most towns, people are moving in. And so you're trying to attract the best people. And you're not going to do that through a 30-day job ad on Indeed. It's not going to happen. And if you're promoting who you are as an employer and you're highlighting the fact that you're a good employer and you're attracting good people, that turns right into a sales process as well. Because you can go through your sales process and say, no, well, we're a good employer. We have good benefits. We treat our people right. We're people focused. That turns into quality work all day long. And people know that. And people, even more so nowadays, want to do business with good companies and good people, not just about the lowest price. It's really about how are you treating your people and how are you doing that. So there's a whole other side to it as well. But it's important to take the time to find the right people that fit your culture and fit your team. If you're just hiring people and they find out they're not a fit for your culture, that's expensive. Turnover and hiring people is very expensive. But if you take the time to find the right person that fits, that molds with your culture, that fits in the company, you have much more chance of being successful with them. And that's why the long-term recruiting strategy, I believe, is the best way to find the right people for your company and not hoping that you guys magically align and you guys meet up. It's like actually, when I was talking to Western yesterday, she's like, it's like, yeah, going out and trying to find a best friend in 30 days. Like, that's not going to work, right? Or go find a wife or a husband in 30 days. Good luck. Like, it takes time to interview and find the right people, and that's why our mission is that way. But one of the next sessions that we'll do here, and we'll talk with you about it, is training, because we're an accredited training sponsor in the trades for NCCER curriculum. And so we can actually set up, that's our biggest focus when you talk about consulting and coming in and setting up training programs within companies and creating, every company is a trade school. I've been a trade school for 12 years in Envision Glass. I just didn't actually have the curriculum behind it. I'd hire a guy, throw him in the field and say, teach him. The guys would harass him and hope that he hung out for a while. And if he made it past 90 days, then he'd get a little bit more respect and they might start teaching him something. That was a cultural leadership issue that we had. I really needed to foster my people in the field and say, listen, you're good at this. You need to be training and teaching this. And this is why it's valuable to you and why it's valuable to us. And instill that culture in there so we can actually be showing people that opportunity. So training is a big part of what we want to do. We're going to talk about how you bring a training program into your company, how to implement it, how that training works, and how to actually give somebody that path to say, hey, if you want to become, a carpentry and you have no experience, start here. Here's carpentry level 1. Here's how you're going to teach them. Here's the curriculum. Here's the online side of it, that we have all of that as well. So training will be the next part of it.
Yep. And just one other thing just to think about is if your hiring process is including, unfortunately, very quick attrition, people, hey, they're not a fit, really do consider that that's like having a bad experience with your consumer having a bad experience with you. Those people are saying something negative, and in most cases, nobody sides with companies because they think that it's the company is the company, but oh wow, they must have been really bad to you. Whatever they say is going to kind of go. You just don't really want that adding up, and I'm really telling you, you don't want it adding up in an area like Truckee, where it's small, tight community. People know each other. It works out in LA because you go back into the masses of 8.2 million people, I think now, or something like that. It worked for me in Orange County. It was almost 4 million people. Here it's smaller, so unfortunately that voice goes a long way. As much as some people just don't work out and you have to act on that, but if you're really strong in that, where it's like, no, but we hired the person here and they've been with us 2 years, like we're not going through people, it's really good for your company.
Yeah, so we launched the platform in January this year. It took us almost a year and a half to build it. We launched in January this year. And we've got about 250 jobs on the site right now, and I think 107 companies and about 550 candidates. So we're growing slowly, and trying to attract the right companies. But again, we're really particular about, the companies that come on board, because it's about a narrative, it's about construction overall, and it's about showing that there are amazing companies in construction that actually will give you good opportunity. So thank you guys for your time, and thanks for coming all 3 days. I appreciate having you guys here. It was great. And I'd love to learn more about your guys' company. Your guys' company is awesome. I think what you guys are doing is fantastic, and it's rare. I can tell you, I've met a lot of companies across the country and met with a lot of owners, and it's rare to see the steps you guys have taken and where you guys are going to go. So I'm excited for you guys. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool. Very good. Well, cool. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Josh.
Absolutely.